Well, g'day YouTube. Warbles on a lot here, and I have had a good day. It kind of started off as a weird day yesterday. I was in town, I was in the bread shop, and as you know, I run my mobile phone as a YouTube channel, and that's mostly what it does, apart from text messages to the children. I actually kind of get annoyed when people ring me up because the phone doesn't like maintaining an internet connection and doing a phone call at the same time. So the phone went yesterday, and it was a television news journalist, a sweet young thing called Elle. And Elle works for Prime News, which comes out of Tamworth. And Prime News is affiliated with Channel 7 News, which is one of the Australian national networks. Okay? Well, the story is that yesterday there was an anti-nuclear protest in front of Parliament House in Sydney because the Barry-O'Farrell Liberal National Conservative government in Sydney has done a backflip, and they have indicated that they're going to reverse their election promise, or campaign promise, not to overturn the New South Wales state law against mining uranium or prospecting for uranium, or in fact running a nuclear industry in New South Wales. Now, the fact that there's an anti-nuclear protest about the state government indicating their desire to perform a backflip causes Prime News TV journalist in Tamworth to have a look at what's happening in the local New England electorate. And this is the seat of Tony Windsor, who's one of the members on the crossbenchers who holds the balance of power in the lower house in Australia. So my local MP's got a few sticks in his stash of weapons. And because in my local town there's a time-expired busyness man, right? His name is Howard Eastwood, and he's a friend of mine. He's a friend of my father's, and he began his life as an X-ray technician, a radiographer. And when I was a child, he set himself up in business developing colour photographs in a garage in his backyard, and he invented the 1 hour fast photo developing machine, the one which he sold the patent to Kodak, and they gave him a percentage of the world profits on making and selling those 1 hour fast photo developing machines. Used to be one in every supermarket. So he's not a poor man, right? And before chemical film died, his son took over the business and turned it into what they call Photo Create. And Photo Create does an awful lot of processing of digital photography. And it's the biggest employer in the local town, and they have some very large machines that run on electricity. Photo Create consumes more Hewlett-Packard maintenance services than Sydney and Melbourne combined, right? So the family business has a great need for a lot of smooth, pure, stable electricity. And to be quite frank, in the busy times around Christmas and Easter, they have trouble getting that amount of electricity out of the coal-fired power system. The other thing is, when Howard retired, he got himself an electric plug-in car called an MEV, right? And theoretically it could do 100 kilometres an hour for 160 kilometres. And it had lithium-ion polymer batteries, put together by a very small outfit in Armidale, and I think it used a Czechoslovakian or a Polish battery charge controller, and it used fairly large amounts of power. And to charge the thing at New South Wales household current of 10 amps, it's going to take, like 9 to 12 hours. And Howard has a deep desire to see a world where everybody drives an electric car which can be fast charged in 1 hour. So he needs 90 amps of 240 volts electricity to feed his electric car fantasy. And I say it's a fantasy because the charge controller from Europe blew up. So it doesn't go anywhere anymore. But that's his vision. So Howard, for his electric car, and in order to keep his son's business supplied with electricity, he wants to see a nuclear power station in New South Wales to feed his desire to consume more electricity. And when his busyness, Eastman Photographic, found a need to close the shop in Glen Innes because the turnover for chemical film wasn't paying the rent, he had an empty shop front. So to keep himself occupied, he set up a Glen Innes nuclear power promotion shop. And because I think he's a well-meaning, jovial, naive, sometimes buffoon, he thought it would be a really clever idea to open his nuclear power shop on the anniversary of the atom bombing of Hiroshima in order to show how far nuclear energy had come. And this was several months after Fukushima Daiichi. Yeah. So when he announced that he was going to open his shop on Hiroshima Day, I decided this is a stupid idea, and I told two of my friends on the Friday afternoon, did you hear about this stupid idea? And the two friends happened to be sort of short fuse activists, and they said, look, this can't be allowed to happen. We will paint posters. If you come along with your battery-powered public address babble box, we can start a protest. So one other person showed up to stand in the photograph, and another bloke showed up and handed us some posters that he'd made. And there was a spontaneous little protest, and four of us got photographed and put in the local newspaper on the front page, protesting the nuclear power shop in Glen Innes. And I'm glad I did it. I even made a YouTube movie called Stand Against Nuclear Energy, the New England Sane Group, because we want to imply that the other side of the argument is insane. We feel that nuclear energy is the most difficult, complicated, expensive and dangerous method of boiling water that has yet been devised, and we do not have the right to inflict high-level and medium-level nuclear waste on our descendants. Nobody has ever yet decommissioned a nuclear power station. Nobody has ever yet figured out what to do with high-level radioactive waste. Right? They argue vociferously about where to put the medium and low-level waste. It's a stupid idea. The people who design nuclear power stations are so thick that they can't organise to have each used fuel rod surrounded by a vertical tube connected to a cold water manifold and a hot water manifold, so that the excess heat from the used fuel rod heats the water, and hot water is less dense than cold water, so the cold water turns to hot water and it pumps itself. Now, when I was at Lucas Heights Nuclear Research Reactor in 1977, I noticed that they had an electric water pump to cool their used fuel rods, and that's why I decided that nuclear power was for idiots. And I further extrapolated and said that maybe that great big mainframe computer that's got them all enslaved, running around in white coats with big cardboard boxes of punch cards, that's why they're so bloody thick in the head. Anyway, I swore off computers back then because I thought that computers and nuclear power were stupid. So yesterday, when the TV journalist rang me up and said, would you like to come and stand in front of the camera and be interviewed about why it's a bad idea to have a nuclear power plant in Glen Innes, I jumped at the chance. And because I understand the concept of secondary gains, I said to the sweet young thing on the telephone, I'll come and be interviewed on condition that we shoot the interview with me standing in front of my car with the streamlined solar panel on the roof. And she said, yeah, no problem. So this morning when she rang me back, because it wasn't actually a prank call, the first one, I organised to meet her at the Glen Innes Standing Slivers. That's where the Celtic Clowns in Kilts convention goes on, just to prove that we have a KKK in Glen Innes in Australia. So it is now 4 p.m, right? Eastern Summer Daylight Savings Time in New South Wales. On the 6 o'clock news, in 2 hours' time from my recording it now, there should be on Prime TV in Australia, and who knows, it may go national depending on what the news cycle is like. And let's face it, there's a conniption fit going on in Canberra at the moment because the Foreign Minister, who used to be the Prime Minister, has resigned from being Foreign Minister because he wants his Prime Minister's job back. And Julia Tryhard, whose faceless factional men stabbed Kevin Rudd in the back, or Rudderless Kevin, as we know him, they're all squabbling over who wants to be the Prime Minister of the Labor Party. So maybe it won't get on the news on a national level. It could even get pushed off if there's something really interesting, like, you know, a two-headed lamb or something happens on the local regional scene. But my great hope is that in 2 hours' time there will be a SunFoil on the roof of my car on a bona fide free-to-air television news program in Australia. And it's only taken almost 9 months, right? It's the 23rd of February and it was the 25th of May that my daughter set up the channel last year. So it takes 9 months for a cow or for a countess to produce an offspring. It's taken me 9 months on YouTube before a free-to-air broadcast news television journalist has driven 160 miles or so, and I had to drive 10 miles so that we could meet and talk. And after talking about the power plant, yes, they actually filmed me pointing at the solar panel on the car, explaining the solar panel on the car, even driving the car around the parking lot, right? And they took away with them the last one of the photocopied 25-page, well, it used to cost me about $6 to produce, project report and updates on the SunFoil project. So my faint hope is that SunFoils have just a bee's dick of a chance of getting out there on a national level after it gets on the news, and it should be happening tonight. Yeah? So Warbles is a bit pithed, and Warbles has had a pretty good day. 2 of them in a row. What else can I say? Yeah? As I said, the zombie picture show the other day. In order to understand the meaning of life, the universe and everything, you must first contemplate the sound of one hand clapping. Not as smooth as it could be. But you know what? Life's pretty good when you're a mad scientist and you don't try to make a profit out of ripping anybody off. All you have to do, in my experience, is try and put at least 10% more into every deal than you're going to take out of it. And that way the environment itself becomes enriched, and next year there is a bigger surplus to be harvested. Right? Forget about the idea of making a profit, ripping people off. Just try and put more into it than you get out of it. Yeah, 9 months, 12 to 16 hours a day, YouTube on a mobile phone. We have one YouTube-inspired SunFoil happening. There are 2 people who are sculpting me, and today, yeah, I got filmed by an actual television news crew. That hasn't happened since 1999 when I was helping to shut down the Timbara gold mine, performing poetry out the front of the courthouse in Tenterfield where other protesters had been arrested. And I came 30 seconds or so out of NBN News. So that's pretty close to the 14.5 minutes. I'm going to stop the camera.